A lot has happened over the past year. Well, actually, the past 6 years. It was 6 years ago when I downloaded Unity for the first time. I finished school and thought, how do I become a game developer without making my parents unhappy? Then, the light bulb hit. I'll do a degree in software engineering. Let me tell you now, I had very little successes in game development over that 6-year span. Instead, I slaved away at learning stuff I wasn't entirely interested in. Data structures and algorithms, engineering math, and whatever this is. Fast forward to the end of 2022 and I can finally say how I learned Unity in less than 3 months. Let me give you a hint. You don't need a software engineering degree to be able to learn. You might then ask the question, how can it be done? I don't have the magic tools, but what I do have is the answer that worked for me. So let's get straight into it. Pushing yourself into the deep end. When you're in front of a pool, but you never jump in because it's too cold. What if someone pushes you in? It's sink or swim, right? Fail or succeed, it's all on you. Well, let's just say that happened to me. I was in my last year of university when I had to undertake what is called a thesis, a big project that spans the whole year in a specialized field in software engineering. I was looking through a list of available projects, and there it was. Create a warehousing simulation game for a university course in Unity 3D. I had to create a simulated warehouse for students to use, which tested them on their knowledge learnt in class. I took it as a sign, met with the professor in charge of the project, and there I was undertaking what I would consider one of the most important projects of my life. After heavy research and documentation of the warehousing course, this was it. It was time to download Unity and take one last serious attempt at game development. I've tried many times in the past to learn Unity, but I always ended up quitting. Every time I would start with the usual shape obstacle course tutorial, but at the end I was always left with the same question: what now? I've never really had an idea for how to systematically approach learning game development, so I always ended up quitting. However, this time was different. I was going to learn from my past mistakes, do what I needed to do to start making my first piece of playable software. This time I had real stakeholders, real consequences on the line. It really was sink or swim. After all that planning and starting to code, by the middle of the year I was falling behind. The obstacle course tutorial was getting me nowhere. I had less than 3 months to make a final game, and all I had to support me was good documentation and a software that would take the average game developer 20 minutes to make. It was time to lock in. To really begin learning Unity, I started looking up everything I could to learn how to make games, Brackeys being my savior. Even started to read some of the Unity documentation, which was almost as fun as you can imagine. At this point, I was learning the basics of how to move objects around in Unity. It was starting to look really similar to a certain tutorial, so I had to change my actions yet again. I started to focus on things I was interested in. I was a big fan of Super Mario 3D Land and wanted to create my levels inspired by that art style, so I got to work on that, and to my surprise, I completed it. And just like that, a snowball effect was taking place. I moved on to the menu, which may have been stripped from a Brackeys tutorial, which turned to this, and then this. Next was the scene, then the tutorial. I got to work with animations from Mixamo and fell in love with the Unity asset store. Then when I got to the actual brains of the coding, I felt like I had already such a strong base, it felt way less overwhelming. I implemented rack functionality, camera movement, the environment, items, all structured through the observer pattern with a little Stack Overflow. Okay, a lot of Stack Overflow. And I was there. Before my eyes, this thing was coming to life. And well, 3 months went quickly. I presented my software to my graders, and the rest is history. I can safely say I learnt Unity. I won't bore you with too much of diving deep into the code, but I wrote thousands of lines and forgot how it all worked in detail since I wrote it a year ago. So let me go through the game itself. First, you're met with the beautiful Brackeys menu, then our level selector. We do have a choice of 2 levels to select at the moment, but we'll go with the first one. From there, you get to your tutorial, and this explains a specific scenario in detail and basically the aim of the game. Then you enter the simulation. We can sort of click how to play, which is also within the simulation if users get stuck, but we can just start day 1 by pushing all the items into the racks however we want to. This is basically updated in real time, and we have complete freedom of how we want to fill up the racks, which are classified by a type on the left. The top and bottom screens show the environment and the current rack clicked respectively for ease of use. Once we do implement all the items, we can then commit and then finally submit our work. So once we have filled all racks with items, which are filled depth first per cell and can be filled singularly, by line, all by full rack, we can then submit our work and basically copy the text over as a final submission so the professor can see what went where for each student. This is obviously just a high level overview, and there are a lot of extra things that I can show you, but I won't bore you. I won't update you too much on this game going forward, but I can tell you I did really well on this project. It cemented my passion as to why I got into software in the first place: to make games. I hope it helps you realize that you don't need to be a coding expert to get started in game dev. You just need to sit down and start chipping away. Start with the bits you're interested in, give yourself a time limit, and put yourself in that sink or swim position. If you can't give yourself consequences, give yourself purpose. Make a YouTube video about the game you're trying to make. Tell your family so it gives you responsibility to go through with it. I hope you got something out of this video. Please remember you can support the channel by subscribing. It will allow me to create and start making some really cool ideas come to life for you guys. And with that, thanks for watching.